I agree with that. Somebody make a motion.
I'll make a motion to rescind Resolution 2015-20. That is the resolution of the Tribal Council of the Delaware Tribe of Indians to amend the housing eligibility, admission, and occupancy policy. That was approved on April 7th of 2015.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion?
Well, I have the same question. I submitted an email. Why is this being put up for rescission? I was told I could wait until tonight to hear the reasons why, so I'm anxiously waiting.
The reason why I have announced and putting forth a vote to rescind this particular resolution is because the Section 8 additional criteria for admission modify this sentence to state that past due tax obligations may be considered for those applying for home ownership programs only. That directly benefits Chief Brooks whenever this policy was amended. The line item J, present previous home ownership. This section is eliminated if a family has sold a home, including participation through federal housing programs less than 2 years prior to the application date. They shall not be eligible for admission to programs referred to herein until a 2-year period has expired. This particular policy amendment, actually it was eliminated, directly reflects Bonnie Jo Griffith, and which allowed her to occupy a home which she did not qualify for the housing program at the time of her application until this resolution amending the policy was made.
And I voted on it, I voted no on it back in a year ago when it was brought up because it changed the policy, and I don't even know if the director ever put it in his book or not, did he? He did. He put those changes, and it was explained to me later that they have that in there for a purpose, that waiting period, because that waiting period allows them to find out what the actual value of the house is, because sometimes people just give their house away, or they find a buyer and then they say they spent that much money, and I don't exactly know the verbiage for it, but the housing authority needs 2 years to check out the whole sale and find out exactly how the market was, what they sold it for, and whether they got fair market value before they move on to allowing that person to have occupancy. It's unfortunate, but they have to prove it. They have guidelines. And by taking it out, eliminating it, then all that process can't go forward.
Well, and also by eliminating that previous or present previous home ownership, eliminating that from the policy that allowed Bonnie Jo Griffith to move up the list in front of deserving qualified tribal members that had families that would have qualified for that home. I would like to say also that the changes of the amendments of this policy did directly benefit both Chief Brooks and Assistant Chief Griffith, allowing personal gain to both.
I'm not sure that I understand why that pertains to me. I've never owned a home in my life other than a mobile home in 1965 in North Carolina.
I'll clarify. I did not state that item J referred to you, Chief Brooks. It was section 8, B1, under additional criteria for admission. Modifying this sentence to state past due tax obligations may be considered for those applying for home ownership programs. I believe that previously the wording was that it did apply to the home ownership program, which did affect you considering you had a hefty, you owe a hefty VAT tax that you did share with the rest of the council at that time prior to this resolution coming to the table for a vote.
I do.
Call for the
Question been called. All in favor?
Yes, and the drug modification too, the drug charges.
Drug charges?
There was a change in here also. Was the charge, what was it, 5 years of,
Call for question.
remove in full, this cried contrary to 24 CFR, remove in full the illegal substance abuse within the past 5 years. Is that what you're referring to?
What was the thing about he made a nice comment about that he could have a briefcase full of drugs in his house and he could be held responsible for someone within his domicile to have a briefcase of drugs. And so that was taken out of the policy that if there was something in his house, this is okay now.
Call for question.
You know what, let's don't sweep this under the rug this time. The last time we swept it under the rug, I argued and argued about this in this very assembly, and do you know, no one even they just didn't say anything about it and let it get passed. Michelle's doing the right thing for asking this to be rescinded. It's just not right that somebody can manipulate the whole housing authority for personal gain.
Exactly, modifying the policy for personal gain.
I know
Yes,
it,
and using their position as an
both
elected
are.
official to do so. And I will speak for myself, whenever I was explained why this policy was being modified by Councilman Young, who worked on the modifications, and continuously explained to that this was okay, that these changes were okay and acceptable. Now, on down the road, I realized that this was very wrong in order for us to vote to approve this.
We met this afternoon with Ron Scott, is that correct, Ms. Shea? And what did we learn this afternoon? That the changes made were in compliance with the HUD occupancy handbook.
That's correct.
And the changes that were made by an elected official, using their position for personal gain by modifying this policy to make you.
Who's we? We met with Ron Scott.
I didn't name
Right.
Where is he tonight? I bet is he looking for another job?
Well, and I recall at the time that this was voted upon back in on April 7th, that our housing director, Ron Scott, was asked to speak and give clarification whether or not he supported these changes, and his explanation actually contradicted the explanation that was given up here at the table. But then, at the end of his explanation, he made a 180 and said that he agreed with, and that is on video. You can refer to that April 7th, 2015 video.
Who does? John Sumter.
It also allowed for the out-and-out manipulation of the waiting lists. The house that you got, Councilman Griffin, Thomas Alsop, who also caught a ration of stuff because he came forward as a whistleblower, charges which have since been dropped and expunged from his record, had been number one on that waiting list for over 2.5 years for that house. Oh yes, don't shake your head.
You have
He-
to redo your application every 12 months. He had not.
I didn't. When I got my house, when was that changed?
I don't know.
It was out and out manipulation. It wasn't the first time that he had been bumped from that number one position. As far as I know, that happened to him twice.
Does he have a family, John?
Yes, he does. Wife
He
and
needed a
2, 3
three-bedroom
small.
house.
Yes, ma'am.
Uh-huh.
2 small children. His wife and himself.
And Bonnie, you had no children.
I had Hayden at the time with me.
She had a home though, but
Called
So
the police.
this here is out and out manipulation of the housing. And Mr. Scott, I threw him a full packet. I also threw a full packet to Wayne Sims. I'll tell you why. Yeah, he's offshoot cousin, but he's cousin of mine. And it seems like right now it's a good old boy network. Well, I'll throw mine in. That is wrong. You as leaders do not steal from the people you lead or have been entrusted to. That is wrong. That is dead wrong. That is fraud against the housing authority of the tribe, is the way I see it, and fraud against HUD itself. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
John,
Yes, sir.
do you have the HUD regulations?
I don't have them with me. I did not know this was coming up, or else I'd have come prepared.
It's on my blog. All of it's on my blog.
They're what?
They're all on my blog.
On your blog?
Yes, I listed each one of the individual pages, and I actually did screenshots of the HUD handbook so that there could be no question as to the authenticity of it. May I continue speaking, sir?
could you come up to the microphone, please?
Thank you for recognizing me. Thank you to all of the tribal members here. I just wanted to let you guys know that I did file this. I tried to give Bonnie Jo the information. She said that she had seen it on my blog. Tried to give it to Nate. He declined it as well. But I did file it with HUD. I have since gotten a letter from Wayne Sims that it has been forwarded over. They're very concerned about charges of the alleged embezzlement and fraud, and that they have submitted it on to the HUD Office of the Inspector General. I have also contacted the Department of Justice and the BIA, who are investigating as well. It is unacceptable and unconscionable that tribally elected officials in our history, the chiefs and the leaders, were the poorest. They